Thank you. Lovely. Tapering, Matt. Beauty. Hey, good to see you again. Familiar faces.
That's Kiri. That's Kiri not smiling. Okay, I'm going to start with some apologies as well, and I apologise for Kiri. I don't know why we brought him, to be honest. He did lie a little bit. He has graduated clown school, as you can see. I'm not quite as funny, so I do apologise. Hopefully you don't fall asleep. I want to start off with just a little bit about my background. I've been in endurance sport for forever, since I was about 14, started running, and started really my coaching career. I'm now kind of formally a full-time coach. Started my coaching career, actually I need to apologise for my shirt too. Richard Swan said it was going to be really summery here, but he was lying. Started my kind of coaching career, I don't know, back in the 2000s when I was living in London working for an agent who represented a lot of the top Kenyan runners in the world. And one of the kind of most memorable moments of that was right after the 2000 Olympic Games when one of our athletes, Noah Nyenga, won 1500 metres, and I was in England and he was in Sydney, and my phone rang kind of 5 minutes after the final finish, and I was jumping up and down with joy, and my phone rang and I picked it up and I answered, and it was him, and he's like, Craig, we did it, and I'm like, Jesus, he's including me in that, you know, and that was a really kind of cool, special moment to be included in that victory. As cool as that was, this guy here is as cool as that moment. He was a guy, he came to me, he was a pretty overweight truck driver, decided to do a bit of running and got talked into entering the Ultra, 100k Ultra, which he did. He had a lot of work to do. We started about 8 months out, started building towards the race. Very close to the race, about 4 weeks out, his dad got quite ill, and terminally ill, and he hit him pretty hard. He was pretty emotional and quite cut up about it. And so he struggled for those kind of 4 weeks, kept building up to the race, and about 10 days out, he emailed me and said, look, I'm just going to pull the pin. I can't do it. I'm just too emotional. I'm a wreck. I can't focus on this massive task that I've got in front of me. I emailed him back and said, look, I understand where you're coming from. I lost my father. I know how hard it is, but I don't want you to regret that decision about, 6 months time from now, looking back and go, shit, I should have just gone and done it. I could have done 60k. So about 2 days out from the race day, he rang me and he's like, yeah, I'm going to come do the 60. I've decided I can probably get through that. I really want to come and do it for my dad. So he shot down to Rotorua. We're standing on the start line. Off they went into the darkness, and I was like, oh, that's so cool that he's doing it. I ended up pacing for one of my other athletes. Did the 55 Ks of pacing with her, and she had some dark moments. She actually reckons I said I was going to run this year, but I don't know about that. It's got to the finish line and we're kind of hanging out, and she disappeared off, and I'm waiting for the other guys to finish, and the 60k finishes in a different place, so I wasn't expecting to see Nigel show up there. And over the microphone, one of Craig's athletes coming in. I'm like, oh shit, that must be Simon, one of my other guys running. So I looked down the finish sheet, I was like, that's not Simon, that's Nigel. What the hell's he doing here? And I was like, he must have done the 85k. So after he kind of collapsed on the ground and got up and got his hug from Tim and his medal, I gave him a hug and I was like, man, I can't believe you did the 85, that's awesome. And he looked at me like I had a couple of heads, and he's like, no, I did the 100, what are you talking about? And it was just overwhelming. It was an amazing moment. And he's just an ordinary guy, a truck driver, who decided to take on this challenge and go to it. And he's still doing it. He's entered again for next year, and he's just hooked and loves it. So really cool story, that guy. So this is the kind of things I want to kind of cover off. I know we're pushing the time, so I want to kind of wrap it through as quick as I can. Plenty of questions at the end if you need to. So just keeping things simple, working on your aerobic base. Talk a little bit about muscle imbalances and taking care of injury management. The necessity of the long runs, speed work, hill runs, you guys don't need to worry about it here. Tapering and build-up events that you might put into your program. Before we go into all that, this is the thing I stole off Nick Willis's Facebook page 4 minutes after he posted it, so that's why it's only got 2 likes. One was me. The last sentence is the one that kind of really stood out to me. For a guy who's been at the top of the world in his event for for a number of years, still enjoys the process as much as kind of getting to that final race in his season. He's still enjoying that whole process, and that's really, really important when you're building up to any event. It could be any event you do in your life. It doesn't have to be an ultra, but just kind of enjoying every moment that you're out there and doing it. And every run is not going to be brilliant, but you need to kind of enjoy that process and be connected to it. This is a little thing I use occasionally when some of my athletes kind of tell me, oh, things haven't gone quite right, I'm not sure what's going on. I send this out to them on email and just go, you didn't do what we talked about, so what can you expect? That kind of leads into this bit of slide, is that running is a really simple sport. We've talked about it already. Kiri's going to talk about it. Let's go for a jog. Really, it's not much more complicated than that. You need to do a lot of jogging if you're going to do 100 Ks, but it's really just jogging. Listening to advice. It's been talked about already. There's lots of advice on Facebook and magazines and books, and every person you talk to who's done a bit of running has a little piece of advice for you. Even people who don't know anything about running might still have advice for you. You need to kind of filter all the crap and kind of grab what really applies to you in your life. Not everyone's the same in the fact that they have the same things going on in their life. So you need to kind of grab the bits that really gel with you and your personality and your lifestyle and make them fit into your plan. Okay? And if you're struggling with what the plan that you put in place, maybe you grabbed the wrong bit of advice, and you need to be realistic about that and kind of reassess and go, these things aren't working for me, how can I make this work a little bit better? So be realistic about that. It's really important, otherwise it's not going to be a fun journey. We got sound?
Because I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass, no trouble. I'm all about that bass,
These races are a long way away at the moment, okay? So the 60, 85, 100, they're 8 months away from now. So you've got stacks and stacks of time to prepare for it, okay? So you don't need to go ripping out the door tomorrow and do a long run if you're not ready for it, because it'll hurt, you'll be crying in the gutter, and you won't be able to walk for like 3 weeks. So be realistic about your starting point. So if you are planning on one of those, know where you are right now, and then start building on that, and build up nice and slowly. Don't put massive volume on now, because you've still got 8 months to go, and you'll be suffering, with overtraining if you do too much now. What I like to do with my athletes is get them to a point where they've got a really good base fitness. I talked about what I used to do as a marathoner in another seminar, and people laugh, so I'm not going to talk about that. But get yourself to a point where you're actually feeling really fit, and it's probably as fit as you've ever felt in your life, and then start kind of training really specifically for that event, for the ultra. So then start focusing on those really long runs. So you're getting to a point where you can quite comfortably go out and run for a couple of hours, and you're feeling really comfortable and fit, and then think, right, okay, I need to start thinking in terms of I've got to run 100 Ks in 16 weeks time. Let's be really specific about what I do now, between now and then, to get to that point. Okay, so that's a really key one. Kiri talked about that before, about periodization, kind of building that big foundation, big base to work on. If you ever watch kids on the floor and they stack blocks up one at a time on top of each other, they get about 8 high and they fall over the floor and they cry. If they build a nice foundation, kind of build up like a big pyramid, they get them a lot higher. And it's the same thing, same with building a house in shaky Wellington. You've got to have some good foundation for it to stand on, otherwise it's going to just collapse. And there'll be tears. When you start building up your mileage, and or throwing in some speed work on top of everything, any niggles that you have in your body, any kind of injury or potential injuries that you might get, can really become quite evident and can derail you quite quickly. So what I like to do, and I do with all my athletes, is send them off for a muscle balance assessment. And basically you go to a physio or an osteo, someone who knows their stuff. They put you through the paces and just check your body to make sure that you're running in alignment, and that you haven't got any kind of deficiencies in your form. Normally you hear the thing, I've got weak glutes or something like that. Normally it's just a firing pattern problem in your glutes rather than an actual weakness. Your ass is normally quite a big muscle and quite powerful. Normally it just doesn't fire correctly, so it needs to be made to fire properly, so that you're not kind of collapsing your legs and looking like a Gumby. And because as you increase your miles or try and run faster when you're running like a Gumby, you're going to get injured. There's no way around it. So really important to go through that.
Hey Craig.
Yes.
Is there a point where you're too close to race state to start doing this, where you might changing things might be more detrimental than?
Yeah, I would say do this first. Yeah, all my athletes who I start with, first thing I do is I send them to a physio who I can trust. I don't know who I'd send them to here in Wellington, sorry, I haven't got a recommendation for you, but and I would send them for an assessment, and then I get a copy of that assessment, and then we work together on a bit of a plan, and I make sure that they're kind of doing those things straight up, so that those injuries are not going to become a problem. Make sure you do what the physio or osteo or whoever you go see tell you to do. Don't just kind of go, oh, that's a lovely bit of paper and a report and file it in the bin. Actually do those exercises because they do help and they do work. And if you're not getting any improvements after, kind of 3, 4, 5 weeks, depending on how serious the imbalance is, make sure you're going back to them and going, it's not working, help, because maybe they're just not quite right and quite addressed it properly. So do be proactive about it. Doing run drills and running technique stuff is really important. If you've got a coach who knows their stuff, they should be able to take you through a series of run drills, and they make you look like a bit of a dick because you're doing kind of those sprinter drills you see them doing, high knees and butt kicks and all those kind of things. You look like a bit of an idiot in the park or wherever you're doing them, but it's really important to keep your form and your efficiency working properly, and that you don't kind of break down towards the end of a race. I know this stuff is, I call it the 5% stuff, and it's probably less than that, it's probably like 2% stuff, and it's really boring, but it is really important. I'm a runner, I love to just go and run, I hate doing all this stuff, but I have to do it, otherwise I get injured. I've just recovered this week from an IT band problem that I had since February because I hadn't been looking after it, and it has been painful and horrible, so really important to do this stuff. If you're going to do anything between now and 8 months, make sure you do long runs. That's probably your number one thing. Long runs, building that base, getting those long runs done. Build into them slowly. Kerry talked about, well, I don't know if he talked about it today, but he has in the past, doing 4 30k runs last week. Don't do that this week, next week, unless you're ready for it. Kind of build up to those kind of distances and getting the mileage out there as you improve your fitness and get stronger.
So is that better to do long runs on time or distance?
Oh, it depends on your terrain. Yeah.
And is that continuous running, or are you allowed to walk if you're in the hills, or should it be specific to running constantly?
Well, I think if on race day, if you know that you're going to end up doing some walking, I think it's really important that you practice that, and that any inclines that you, on race day, maybe in the second half of the 100, if you're doing the 100, you're not going to be in a state to run them, walk those ones. When you get to the top, start a more powerful walk, jog over the top, jog the flat bits for as long as you can, jog the downhills, and that way, you're not going to get caught by these cut-offs, but you'll certainly have a far more enjoyable time than trying to run up a hill when you're not prepared for it and not ready. So you can do your runs on distance or time. That really is going to be dependent on the terrain that you choose. Kerry talked about rhythm running. I quite often put on my programs, particularly with the guys who I know love to go out and bush bash. They'll do 5-hour run and it'll be 19 kilometres. I'm like, what the hell did you do? And so I will put it in their programs. I want you to go and run 30 k's on I don't care if it's off-road, on-road, I don't care where you do it, but some kind of terrain where you can actually do that rhythm running and actually just click over those k's nice and steady. It doesn't have to be fast, just steady running. You guys are blessed or cursed, I don't know which. I used to live here, so I know. Lots of hills, and they're fantastic to run in. I loved it when I was here. But we used to run the macro loop because it was nice rhythm running. You can run 32 k's or whatever it was and smack it out. You have sore legs afterwards, but you get a really good rhythm out of it. But you can obviously vary your terrain because it is important. The course is up and down. It's the second half of the 100 is on four-wheel drive track and forest road. The first part of the course is single trail, so you want to be used to doing that. If you can get up there and run on any of that, then great. Run with groups or clubs, as Kerry mentioned, really important. Breaks up the boredom rather than going out for really long runs by yourself. Do run with other people. The guys I run with, we just normally joke and laugh, and we run for 2.5 hours and pretty much spend the whole time taking the piss out of each other and laughing. So it's great entertainment as well as great training. Vary who you run with. So not every day that you run is going to be a fast run. So on those slow runs, go with someone who you know is a bit slower than you if you can find someone. And flip side, if you're doing a hard workout or you want to do a hard run, grab someone who's faster than you and tee up a run with them and put yourself to the test. A really great way to get a lot of ground covered over, say, a weekend, or if you're lucky enough to have weekdays off over a couple of weekdays, is to do 2 back-to-back runs. I've got 2 examples of 5 hours and 3 hours there, but that'll just depend on what your end goal is in terms of your race and where you are between now and then. You can split those up. You might do 2 2-hour runs back-to-back days, 4 hours, 2 hours, something like that.
So if you're doing these sort of things back to back, what's a good recovery strategy on day 1?
Eat and sleep.
Anything more specific?
Yeah. Sorry?
Anything more specific?
I don't like to be drawn into nutrition too much, but yeah, definitely you need to replenish yourself and get plenty of rest in between day run 1 and run 2. Don't go out drinking and boozing that night because it's not going to be pretty when you wake up in the morning and you've got a 3-hour run to do and your legs are beat up and your head's pounding and you feel like someone's driven a bus over you. So yeah, just take care of yourself is my advice on that. Get a good night's sleep, hydrate well. And you'll be feeling a lot better for your second run the next day. That second run is always going to be pretty hard. Be warned. Probably the first hour of that will hurt and you'll suffer. And then maybe if you're doing 3 hours, the second hour will feel quite good, and then the third hour will feel really terrible again. But they're really important, and they're a really great way to prepare yourself for the hardships that you find at the end of the race. Okay. And if you can drag someone out with you on that second day, great. That's really cool too. Get someone to drag you around. Speed work, is it necessary? Yep, that's necessary. And why is it necessary? Well, it really depends, I think, actually, if you're wanting to go a little bit faster than you've done before, or you really want to kind of challenge yourself to go as fast as you can on the course, or if you're just out there to complete it. If you're just out there to complete it, just doing your long runs and jogging is fine. You'll get away with that. You'll get through it and you'll be fine. If you're wanting to challenge yourself and push the boundaries of what you're capable of, then speed work is a great way to improve your performance. There are a couple of ways you can do this. Probably the best way for these kind of distances is working on your lactate threshold. Hands up who knows what lactate threshold means. Oh, there's a few more this time. Okay, so lactate threshold, for those who don't know, is probably the pace that you can handle for an hour of running at full pace. So if I said to you, right, we're going to go for an hour run, I want you to go as hard as you can, that will end up being your lactate threshold. Okay, so if you want to read round numbers, you 10 Ks in an hour, it's nice and easy maths, 6-minute Ks. If you're going to do lactate threshold sessions, working on those numbers, you're probably going to be looking at about kind of 5.5-minute Ks for your workouts. Okay. Your first time you go and try this, you won't be able to do 40 minutes at that pace. You'll probably be suffering quite quickly. So you probably want to do a session like maybe 5 times 2 minutes with 2-minute recoveries, something like that. And you run at that pace for 2 minutes, have a 2-minute recovery, go again for 2 minutes and do that 5 times. And then the next week, you try it again. You might be able to go 3 minutes, or you might be able to do an extra rep on the end. Okay, and then you just build that time up slowly. And after kind of 4 or 5 weeks, you should be kind of in the range of 30 to 40 minutes of effort. And you can break that up. That could be 10-minute efforts in the end. It doesn't really matter how you kind of divide that up. VO2 max, as Kerry said, if you've only got 20 minutes, go and smash yourself as hard as you can for 20 minutes. That's a great way to get a good chunk of work done in a very short amount of time and leave you feeling quite sore and ill. But a really cool way to kind of test yourself as well. If you're doing the shorter reps, so in time you might play around with reps. So if you 6-8 weeks down the track and you go, oh, I need to mix it up a little bit, you might do some 3-minute efforts and some 1-minute efforts and some 2-minute efforts and some 5-minute efforts. When you're doing those 1-minute efforts as opposed to your 5-minute efforts, the shorter ones should be faster. Okay, so you need to kind of gas a little bit, put a little more effort in. And that kind of brings me to the next one, which is working on your leg speed. Since my running career kind of ended, I moved into triathlon, and you see a lot of people at Ironman in the last few hours of Ironman. There's some really bad shuffling going on, and I saw it at Tarawera as well. I went past a guy who couldn't get his feet off the ground. We were pacing, and he was like this. He had no knee lift and completely shot. And my pick is he never done a stride in his life. So what I mean by strides is kind of 60 metres, 2 lampposts, 1 lamppost, doesn't really matter how you do it on a rugby field. Not sprinting because you'll hurt yourself, but nice, fast, almost sprinting. Probably about 80% of what you think is your Usain Bolt impersonation. And you might do 4 of those, a little jog at the end and come back the other way. Great way to work on your leg speed and try and avoid that shuffle that you might end up with if you don't have any leg speed at all. And this next slide I've got is a little bit redundant for you guys because you guys have got no options. But why hill sessions are great and hill workout are fantastic training. One, it's great for your leg strength. Okay, so you're fighting gravity as you're charging up the hill. Secondly, you can do some of those lactate threshold sessions on a hill, and you avoid the trauma that you would do them if you're doing it on the flat, especially on a concrete surface. So great way to do it. Just be mindful that if you're doing something specific with your lactate threshold kind of work, that you do it on a moderate incline. So I know around here there are some pretty gnarly climbs, and they're really steep and fun to charge up, but they're not great for form or technique, and they slow you right down to kind of a shuffle. So find one that's not so steep, nice moderate incline, and use those for your sessions. When you're doing them, your first ones might be kind of 1 to 2 minutes of effort running up, and then as you get fitter and stronger, again you can add more reps, so you can run up and down 10 times, or you might increase the distance that you run up, so it might be up to 6, 7, 8 minutes. We also have I live in Tarawera. We have a heli loop that I call the heli loop of death, and it's a 3.5K circuit, and it's got 3 decent climbs in it, and we charge around that. I'm sure around here you could find a loop similar to that. You just find one up around the streets where you live. That's what I do. I'm inherently lazy, and all my workout sessions are done almost right outside the door of where I live. I got a road loop that's 1K and 2K, literally 50 metres from my door, and the heli loop of death is 50 metres the other way on the hills. So they're great sessions to do. We do loops around the 3.5K circuit, and sometimes we just charge around as fast as we can the whole loop. The second loop might be running the uphills really hard, jogging the downhills, and then charging up the next one. So great training, and great way to work on your threshold and your leg strength. So another thing that's really important is tapering. Everybody has their own kind of individual take on tapering, and it's really important that you find what works for you. So use your lead-up races that you're planning between now and whatever your event you're choosing to do to actually kind of work on those things. It doesn't mean do nothing, so don't kind of stop training 3 weeks out and go, right, I've done all my hard work, I'm ready, put your feet up. That doesn't work. You'll get to the start line feeling really hideous. Equally, it doesn't mean panic and do an inverse taper and do more volume than you have done in the last 8 months in 2 weeks. That doesn't work either. I would suggest that you do your last long run about 2 weeks out. And when I say long run, if you're training for the 100K, don't do your longest long run 2 weeks before. That probably won't work either. I might say 2.5 to 2 hours on that. 2 weeks out is probably enough to get you to the start line. We've got some notes that need to be taken. Get to the start line feeling good. Your blood volumes will still be high from a physiological standpoint, and you won't be feeling tired and shagged when you get to the start line, which is really, really important. Don't be afraid to have a couple of days off. I know I said don't do nothing, but also don't be afraid just to have a couple of days off and just let the body recover. You've done all the hard work in the build-up. Now it's about recovering and let the body kind of being the most prepared it can possibly be on race day when you're standing on that start line, you're just fizzing and amping, ready to go. You know your legs are fresh, and when the gun goes, you're into it, but not too hard. The day before the event, a lot of people balls this up. Stay off your feet the day before race day. Go and do your registration. Go and attend the expo and get your stuff that you need and kind of look around the stuff that's there. Then go back to the hotel and put your feet up. Have a sleep. I use it as an excuse to have a sleep. My wife always lets me sleep on the day before a race, which is great. And it's really important. If you go shopping because you're in Rotorua and you've been in before and it's exciting and new, and you go and have a look around all the shops and you spend the whole day on your feet, you'll go to bed that night and you'll be aching, and the next morning you'll still be aching, and that's not a great thing when you've got a long run to do. Probably a rule of thumb in the taper week is that you're not going to make yourself any fitter. So yeah, that kind of ties in with the second one, that don't panic and do more. You just need to let that body recover. Yeah, the only thing you can do is destroy your chances. And the next one is Kerry's slide. You're gonna.
Oh yeah, I don't want to dwell on the not to do's because people get caught up on them, but there's some things you do if you're going out too hard. Be realistic and understand what is achievable for you. Don't think you're going to win the Tarawera Ultra. Seek help, make a smart race plan. It's about how quickly you need to get through different places in the race. Have fun is really important, but not as important as don't go out too hard, because so many people make this mistake. If you're going out for a 15-hour or 17-hour ultra marathon, don't try and win it in the first 7 hours. You can't win a 100k race in the first 5 kilometres. So, so many people make this mistake. Just think, you stand on the start line with a lot of your friends who you may not yet know you, but you're going to learn them, find out a lot about them. You're just going for an easy old jog. You're going to talk to them about what they had for dinner last night and how their training's been going and how they're feeling. So don't stress, but certainly do not go out too hard. So that's probably, that's us, all of us. Yeah, quick round of applause for Craig Kirkwood.